Texas is still a top 3 team. Texas Tech is top 12, and these are my totally accurate, only perfect college football rankings that you're going to find anywhere. Starting off, number 25, Missouri. Yes, they're a top 25 team. They beat Central Arkansas 61-6. Yeah, they're not a marquee opponent, but Missouri dominated right here. Their offensive line is tremendous, right? They have two of the best prospects for next year's draft and the year after that, 2027. Missouri is going to be one of the best teams running the ball, one of the best teams pass protection wise. Their offense is going to be good. Their defense is getting better. It's going to be better than it was last year. And for that reason, they should be a top 25 team throughout this year. Number 24 is Iowa State, who is 2-0 now, right? They beat Kansas State, and they beat South Dakota 55-7. And yeah, they're very consistent here. Most people have Iowa State higher, but I can't go higher than 24 because there's just so many great teams. 23, Florida State. Yeah, they beat Alabama, but people want to say, oh, Alabama's bad. Okay, so Florida State's good because they beat a bad team. Like, what? Okay, but either way, Florida State won 31-17. They had a bigger lead, and for a while, it was like, oh my gosh, Florida State's going to beat Alabama like 31-7. Alabama scored 10 points, but still, the Seminoles rushed for 230 yards, right? That's just crazy. And the Alabama was just terrible, and their offense couldn't get anywhere. And Florida State's defense was just very good the whole game. They were forcing some mistakes on Alabama's end, and this is one of the craziest season openers, most unexpected season openers in recent history, if not the most. Number 22 is BYU, and there were a lot of concerns about BYU, their quarterback, right? But their freshman quarterback this week did pretty good, and BYU dominated in their win. So yeah, they're ranked number 22. As you see, I'm going pretty fast with these rankings because myself, I cannot sit through 6 minutes, or I mean 10-minute videos. So that's why I'm trying to keep this to like 5 minutes probably. 21 is Arizona State. Some people have them top 10. Yeah, they beat Northern Arizona, 38-19. That's not the most convincing win. Sam Levitt threw two passing and two rushing touchdowns, becoming the second Arizona State player to do so in the past 30 seasons. And that spark underscores Arizona State's explosive potential. They returned a lot of players from last season. They were in the playoffs last season. This year, they could do something similar in the Big 12, but I have Big 12 teams ahead of them. Number 20 is Illinois. They dominated Western Illinois. They won 52-13. This is very low compared to other people's rankings, but no, they were pretty good. Hank Betty scored a 69-yard punt return for a touchdown, and then Altmaier had 217 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked perfectly fine, and that's really what I have a lot of hope in Illinois for. Luke Altmaier is amazing. And this is the Illinois' biggest week win margin in decades. So this is probably the best Illinois team, like potentially ever, if they continue on this kind of streak. Number 19 is Tennessee. There was a quarterback competition that lasted very late into the offseason, only up till like a couple of weeks before the season actually started. But they were pretty good. Joey Aguilar is the real deal. 247 yards, 3 touchdowns. They beat Syracuse 45-26. So this is quite the impressive win that we were expecting Tennessee to win, but by this much, yeah, this should calm the nerve. We were anxious about, is Tennessee going to be able to do good without Nico? Yeah, they moved on pretty fine. And yeah, Nico, he lost terribly to Utah with UCLA. Okay, number 18 is Oklahoma. They beat Illinois State 35-3. They dominated. Transfer quarterback John Mateer threw for 392 yards, the most ever in an Oklahoma debut, breaking the game open with late fourth quarter touchdowns. This was amazing performance by Oklahoma. They're one of the many great teams in the SEC. I'm not SEC biased whenever I make these rankings. It's just that there's so many good teams, and they're low-key underrated as a conference because the Big Ten is overrated if you can't tell right now, then you'll be able to tell eventually. 17 is Texas A&M, another SEC team I'm really high on. They only beat UTSA 42-24. I was watching this at Jack in the Box while waiting in line to pick up a mobile order. It was a pretty boring game, and then Texas A&M scored. And it's like, oh yeah, this is a good team. They beat them, and Casey Conception made history. It was both a punt return touchdown and a receiving touchdown, the first aggregate to do so since 2017. This was a great game by Texas A&M. Even though UTSA did score in the first half, wasn't the prettiest. Texas A&M got going in the second half, and they really shut down UTSA, which is what they should do, what you would expect from an SEC defense. 16 is SMU, and they beat East Texas A&M 42-13. Like I said, like a lot of times, this is not like the most impressive win since looking at the caliber of the opponent, but they had multiple pick sixes. The defense with SMU is usually a concern year by year because their offense is usually a-okay. But right here, yeah, this could be a sign of good things. But you think about the last time my team had two pick sixes in their season opener. That was USC in 2022, and that was not a good defense. So that doesn't necessarily mean that SMU is going to be all set this year, right? But we're expecting something better than 2022. USC 15 is Ole Miss, a team that could have been in the playoffs last year. They beat Georgia State 63-7, one of the most impressive victories of the season so far. And they're the first SEC team to ever score 60 plus points in three straight season openers. And that offense is elite. There were a lot of people like, oh, without Jackson Dart, Ole Miss is not going to be the same. Their offense isn't going to be as good. Well, they're still amazing. So moving on, 14 Michigan. They beat New Mexico 34-17 on NBC for a primetime game. It was compelling. They had 452 yards, right, which is their highest total last season. And Bryce Underwood is a pretty good rookie. He's a pretty good 5-star. They were like, oh, should we start the 5-star as a freshman? Yeah, you should because he's amazing. Over 250 passing yards and a touchdown. Michigan looks okay. Their defense wasn't the best this game, but we're expecting that to be better. It's going to improve. They have Derek Moore. They have Benny. Michigan still has a loaded defense. Number 13 above Michigan is Alabama. You thought that they were going to fall out of my rankings because I had Florida State all the way back in the 20s. No, Alabama is still a good team. Yes, this loss to Florida State is a setback, and it was the first opener loss since like 2001. 24 years is absolutely crazy, but this is not the end-all be-all for Alabama. This is just a wake-up call. I'm trusting the head coach in year 2 of this of being the coach. They're gonna improve from it. Nick Saban in his first year at Alabama didn't go pretty, just like DeBoer his first year at Alabama last year. And looking at Nick Saban, he made it good in his second year. DeBoer should be good with Alabama in his second year. History repeats itself. And yeah, there's not a lot of things that you look at this game that you take away from, like, oh, Alabama could have a good future. But I mean, they have some of the best recruits, right? And I'm banking on that. Number 12 is Texas Tech. 67-7 win over Arkansas Pine Bluff. Texas Tech made a ton of great moves in the offseason. Their defensive line is absolutely crazy, and Texas Tech starts the year off with its largest opener margin since 1927. I don't know why people are sleeping on Texas Tech. They should not be a dark horse. They should just look at what they did with NIL, and there's no reason why people should be doubting them. 11 is Notre Dame. They lost in Miami. It was in Miami. It's okay. The home team in that series, where both teams are top 10, has won every single time. This is not an exception. Miami won by 3. It was this very high stakes opener. And Notre Dame, I thought they were gonna win. Not gonna lie. And then they lost. It was surprising. The offense showed some inconsistencies. It was a very close atmosphere, but nothing that they can't bounce back from. I now getting into my top 10. South Carolina, they beat Virginia Tech 24-11, but it was a very fun game, right? We saw Nick Harbor, we saw Lenora Sellers, and that's a duo that I can expect great things from throughout the year. It was a neutral site game. South Carolina defense is terrific. They're top 5 in the SEC. They're basically like a top 10 defense in all of college football. South Carolina is a team that I think if they can prove that they can win in close games, they can possibly get up to top 3 ranking by the end of the year. But it's a tough schedule. It's going to be hard to win every game. Number 9 is Miami, who I was just talking about. They had a comeback win, and it's the first win over a top 10 team since 2017, which is kind of crazy for Miami. But Malachi Tony, the freshman, and Carson Beck were just electric this game. And yeah, this is Beck's, it's a revenge kind of season for him. He came back from not having a great year at Georgia. He got injured, missed the playoffs, and Carson Beck should be playing with a chip on his shoulder, especially if you look at, okay, I'm not going to go there. But number 8 is Oregon. They defeated Montana State 59-13. Yeah, absolute annihilation. Devin Moore went 18 for 23, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. I don't think he's as good per se as the last 2 quarterbacks they've had in Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel, but they're still a great offense. They spread the ball to 12 rushers and 10 receivers, which is just absolutely lethal balance. 7 is Florida. I'm very high on Florida. I don't know how people have Florida only like 14 or whatever. They beat Long Island University 55-0, holding them to just 86 total yards, the fewest allowed since 2016. No, it's a statement of the defensive lockdown. Florida is a big, big, mean defense. Lagway, there's no concerns about him. Number 6 is Clemson. Yeah, they lost 17-10. There was another team who I thought was gonna win. I was watching in the middle of the game, and I'm like, okay, Clemson's gonna stay here, and it continues to be a concerning opener trend because they've lost what 4 of the past 5 or whatever. That yeah, they had red zone struggles, and you hate to see it, especially because they look so good, and yeah, they couldn't get the job done. Number 5 is LSU, the team that beat Clemson 17-10. Yeah, they did it on the road. Garrett Nussmeier looks like, yeah, he could be a Heisman candidate, of course. He was a favorite coming into the season. Cam Durham led the charge while the defense bent but did not break. They allowed some yards. Red zone defense was amazing, giving the Tigers their second ever win over a top 5 team in the season opener. Number 4 is Georgia, one of the most complete teams there is. They beat Marshall 45-7. This was a good game for Gunnar Stockton because there were times last year where he comes in and it's like, he's not the best quarterback, but this should do him good, get him some experience against an actual team. And he accounted for 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. And yeah, like I said, they held Marshall to only 7, which came like it didn't mean anything when they scored that touchdown. Number 3 is Penn State. They beat Nevada 46-11. Absolutely dominated. We're 40-point favorites. They win by 35. It's okay. Drew Aller went 22 for 26. Very good. 217 yards, a touchdown. While Nick Singleton continued his touchdown streak, now extended to 8 consecutive games. This is an offense you can count on. This is a defense that you can count on. They return a lot of players. They return most players out of any like Power 5 team, like tied with a couple other schools. Penn State returns a lot of production. They don't have anything to worry about. Their offensive line is amazing, right? With how they return like 4 or 5 starters. This is a phenomenal team. There's a reason why some people think they're the best team in college football. Number 2 is Texas. Yeah, they lost to Ohio State. People didn't like their offense. Arch Manning was missing a couple of open throws that he should have made, but it's mainly just because they struggle in the red zone. Their defense is perfectly fine. They could have held Ohio State to only 7 points. There was a penalty that cost them 1 point in the game, and they turned the ball over on downs 4 times, which is not, yeah, it's a concerning offense. But number 1 is Ohio State, the team who claims the top rank after beating number 1 Texas. Their defense suffocated the Longhorns. Quarterback Julian Sain, yeah, he's a freshman who's 20, and yeah, I'm not like the highest on him. I don't think he's 5-star like Michigan's quarterback, but they got the win. It was good enough, and maybe in the next couple of weeks they can work it out. Offense can get going. Maybe he can get a better connection with Jeremiah Smith. He only had 40 yards this game, and once Ohio State's offense gets going, they're gonna be deadly. So that's my top 25. Let me know what you think is crazy about this, because this is like truthfully what I think the top 25 teams are. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.